Testing 1, 2, 1, 2. Power on. Board functioning at 100%. Microphone detected. Storage accessible and ready to receive content. 3, 2, 1. Welcome to SpectrumTalks. Hey!
Everybody, welcome to Spectrum Talks. It's another week, it's another day, it's another minute. Today we have in the studio Tyler Scanlon. Tyler is involved with On the Avenue. We talk about On the Avenue all the time. He is a mentor, he's a teacher, he's a just wonderful person who gets things done around here. The guys love him, we love him, and welcome to the show.
It's great to be here.
Cool. On the show, we always talk about just things. We generally try to keep it about stuff about autism. You're finishing school, right?
I just graduated about 2 months ago.
Okay. I knew COVID was slowing some things down. I couldn't remember if you had graduated or not. So, your master's, or you're doing a master's, or?
I was doing I guess it's a master's in business administration.
Okay, cool. So, and you just happened to meet Tom on the streets, and y'all just started talking, and he had some ideas to help you in one route. Then you came over to On the Avenue, and you're kind of stuck here for now and loving it and helping us out and kind of bringing your talents, right?
Yeah, I met Tom. I was on actually a recruiting visit down at Belmont for basketball, and Tom's son had actually just been at Belmont basketball camp, and as a camper, and he had been introduced, through his son to Coach Alexander, who's the coach Belmont, and kind of during the conversation said he was in marketing, advertising type stuff, and Coach Alexander said, we got a guy who's coming in this week who's interested in that stuff. Would you like to meet him on his visit? So I met Tom that way. And then I got here for like my first day of my internship, and I had no idea what to expect. And I think really the thing that I loved about On the Avenue, even before it was On the Avenue, was just how genuine and authentic it is. Like, these guys they don't lie to you. They don't have ulterior motives. They just want to have a good time and learn stuff.
Yeah, and it's been interesting because, I'm mid-50s and I find myself hanging out with 25-year-olds all day long and loving it. It's like, it's they're genuine. There's no BS involved. If they're having a bad day, you just know they're having a bad day, and you can pretty much figure out what it is, and you just say, hey guys, take it, chill out. But overall, it's generally just positive. It's loving. It's fun. It's joking. We're doing a thing here on Wednesday nights, game night, and I wouldn't miss it to save the world. We're playing all kinds of just silly games, and some of them get it 100% and are fantastic at it. Others are trying to figure it out and don't care, So it's just a good old time. We laugh and we talk, and it's really, really cool. So before you started coming over to On the Avenue, did you know much about autism?
So one of my better friends in high school actually has Asperger's, and that was kind of my first learning curve with people on the spectrum. And you just kind of learn that there are certain nuances and my friend's thing is he couldn't tie his shoes. Just the coordination required for that. That's just one of the things that he lacked. And just getting over that immediately and not being like, haha, like so-and-so can't tie their shoes. It's like, we're people. Like, it happens. Like, one of his flaws is he doesn't tie his shoes very well. Like, it's okay. And being able to accept that everyone's different, and some people have things they're great at, some people have things they're not so great at. But that was really the first moment where I was exposed to, somebody not being able to tie their shoes, and it's not their fault. It's not that they didn't try to learn. It just didn't work out that way.
Right.
And he was actually our manager on the football team. And his senior night, he got to suit up for one play, and we motioned him across, and he got to go out there, and that was a really big deal. The thing that I noticed about him that I've also noticed is kind of characteristic of people on the spectrum is that they're super passionate and they're very diligent. Like they work really hard. And I feel like it's a generalization, but I have yet really to meet, like they're very passionate people. Like they're just by nature. And they can really get locked into something that they're doing and really put their heart into it, which I don't know. I've really noticed that with most of the people on the spectrum I've run into.
Yeah, and it's interesting because it can be the most mundane thing to you and myself, and they just love doing it, and they'll do it all day till you say, hey, it's time to stop. Yeah, and I think back to your point about tying the shoe and identifying somebody being on the spectrum, I think a lot of the guys you just would never know hanging out with them visually, it's until you start talking to them. And then I think, neurotypicals just always like to have things carbon copy of ourselves, so I want to hang out with somebody who looks and thinks like me, and when they don't, we kind of just write stuff off, or we become bullies and laugh and make fun of. But when you start really understanding the world of the spectrum, it's a learning disability, and some people are a little bit slower at it and some people are a little bit faster at it, and once you get that, then it's like, okay, well, here, let me help you with your shoe, and it may be a lifelong, hey, let me help you with your shoe, and then again, it may be 2 seconds later and he's tying, shoelaces that you've never seen before, so you just never know. And I think that's the beauty of On the Avenue. We take the time and come from a loving standpoint where it's like, okay, you didn't tie your shoe, whoop-de-doo. We move on, we move past it, we make sure that he can walk around without his shoelace tied, but he's not going to trip during the day, and when we all focus on, hey, let's not let him trip today, so I think that's the cool part about this place. For people out there, what would you suggest if you want to learn more about autism, or if you see somebody with autism, I say run towards it, big hugs and, get to know the person, because it's going to be a blessing, I bet.
Yeah, I think an important thing to know, if you're interacting with people on the spectrum, is be patient at first, because for a lot of their lives they've been told that they're different and they've been kind of treated like an outsider. So a lot of times people on the spectrum, they're a little more hesitant to accept you right away. But if you break through that initial meeting, then everything is much more smooth sailing after that. You just have to give them a chance.
And I agree. And I think lots of times communication skills are lacking. So, we may approach somebody and be talking fast. Like I talk fast. So, that may freak the person out. And all of a sudden they're just quiet and not responding. And you're like, what's going on? And it may be me the whole time, where if I just slow down my wording and talk slower and then they can process it better. And, so I think it's definitely, you have to be aware of things going on. Like I remember we had a citizen here, and I always just got right up in his face, and he would just have this most sour look and look mad and mean. And I'm like, why are you mad at me? And finally he's like, you're in my space. I'm like, oh, I'm sorry. So then I started just showing up 6 feet away, and we started talking and hanging out, and everything was cool. And over time I was allowed to move closer, so I think it's being cognitive and watching and alert to the situations that I think will help the communication and the understanding grow. Yeah, cool. Well, we'll keep this one short and sweet. Thanks for being on the show, and we'll talk to you next time.
Sounds good.